Teachers of Reddit. What is the shittiest parent you have ever encountered? Mother at a parent's evening wasn't happy with my evaluation of their child and simply said, "You're lucky my husband isn't here." Crazy thing was, she was a teacher at the same school. About 7 years ago now. Girl 1, what happened with you and your dad? Are you okay? Girl 2, we got in a fight and he hit me and threw me into a wall, but it's okay now. The rest of the conversation doesn't really matter, but in Australia it's the law as a teacher. If you find out a child is doing illegal activities or being harmed in some way, you have to report it. So I went to the police. They arrested the dad and talked to the girl and her siblings. Turns out he was assaulting his own kids, and the reason he attacked her is because she resisted. So, although I never actually met him, I'd say he's the shittiest parent I know. So many calls to CPS. A little Muslim girl on my caseload one day told me a story about how her dad hits her with wires. She pulls up one sleeve to show her forearm, and there's a fresh red line, alongside several other scarred lines. The religious school which she attended on weekends apparently also liked to use this kind of punishment. I saw one forearm. The nurse said there was a bunch more. One boy, who is one of several boys in his family all named after their father, comes in with a black eye. I reported to the nurse, and hey, what do you know? There are all kinds of other marks and bruises. The boy refuses to say it was his dad and insists on a story about falling. All of the other boys had similar incidents during their 10 years in our school. A boy with severe undiagnosed ADHD, no glasses despite horrific eyesight, misses over 30 days of school. His mom took him to get his eyes checked, but didn't have the money, $25, to pay for the glasses. We tell her about some programs she can sign up for to get the glasses for free. She refuses. She doesn't need handouts. Me and the nurse go to the store and buy 2 pairs of the glasses ourselves. One for school, one for home. Not that I needed one, but we never got a thank you or any recognition from mom. The home pair is broken within a week. Mom fills out paperwork at the end of the year saying they're leaving the district, so we give him the school pair on the last day. When school starts the following year, he shows up, no glasses. A new 3rd grade student reading at a pre-K level. I assess him and start reading interventions. It's screamingly obvious he has a learning disability. He cannot function in his gen ed classroom. We broach this with the parents and they completely deny there's an issue. We call the previous school. They actually tested him for special education. He qualified, and the parents said no, and that they wanted no additional services at all. Turns out his elder brother has very similar needs being unmet. I can't even count the number of deadbeat parents who only care enough to step into their child's life every once and a while to completely mess with their kids' heads. Like they let grandma or aunt take care of kid day to day, then show up once a month, make promises, and leave, letting their kid fruitlessly hope that mommy/daddy will make good this time. I love my students like they are my own. The students I mentioned above were no picnic. They tested me every day. Thing is, I don't care how hard these kids are. They do not ever deserve to have parents like that screw them like this. It's baffling to me that some grown adults can't see the damage they inflict on their kids. Like truly horrible damage. Wounds, both emotional and physical, that make it impossible for them to be successful in school and in social relationships. I listed a few of the cases I remember. There are so many more, and I don't even work in that bad of a district. I'm a 6 foot tall, 200 pounds, 30-plus-year-old man. I've cried several times on my way home because of this. It's a goddamn travesty. I teach in a grade school ALE classroom with 2nd through 5th graders. Unfortunately, I have had some doozy of parents. One time I had a 4th grader accused of stealing a sweatshirt hoodie from a kid in a regular classroom. You could tell by looking at him that the hoodie wasn't his. He was a larger boy and the hoodie was skin tight on him. I questioned him if it was his hoodie. He said it was. I asked where he got it at. He said the internet delivered it to him the day before. Yeep, the whole internet did. I finally ended my interrogation asking him if it was okay if I called his mom to verify that the internet sent him the sweatshirt. He agreed. I wait until my break and I call the mom to ask her. Immediately in our conversation she starts telling me about how the police are after her boyfriend because he has a warrant for his arrest. All drug related. Okay, too much information and I try to steer the conversation back to the hoodie. That's when she starts telling me about them being in the vehicle at that moment running and hiding from the police. Wait, what? I think she even used the term on the lam like it was a 1950s movie. It was the craziest conversation I ever was in that I didn't want to be in. All I could think of is that I'm a mandated reporter and she didn't need to be telling me all this stuff. Meanwhile, I'm trying to figure out where she wants me to send her son after school, that he will be safe, because they are out running from the cops. Craziness. Oh, she ended the conversation by letting me know that the sweatshirt wasn't actually her son's and he did steal it. I heard a student, 16 years old, refer to Albert Einstein as that Jew in a formal presentation, so I brought him in after school to talk about his language and try to go over with him why it was inappropriate. I then had another instance with the kid where he was making extremely anti-Semitic jokes to other students. I now pulled the student and dad into a meeting with me, the principal, and the guidance counselor. The dad walked in and started screaming at me that I was pushing my liberal agenda on the students, and if I didn't shut up he would make sure no man would ever want me for a wife and I'd be stuck working for the rest of my life. The police had to be called and the father escorted out. It was only 3 weeks before the end of the school year and the security guard at the school switched their schedule to match mine as the dad would loiter around the school like 30 minutes before the school day started and make me super uncomfortable. I opted to leave the school for the next school year. I teach chemistry and physics, so not super hard for me to find a job at another school, just so I didn't have to risk seeing the family again. This is a lot of years ago now. Dude shows up. He's the father of one of my students. Wants to review his son's exam cause he thinks I was too hard on him. Guy caught me off guard cause this was the last thing I expected during my office hours. But fine, I'll do it. Agree. Yeah, I guess I could have been a bit more lenient. Returned something like 2 marks on the whole exam, takes his kid from a 53 to a 55%. That was it. His kid still failed Computer Science 101 at university. I'm so glad there's another university story. I'm a graduate assistant, GA, for a math course at my university. A parent emailed me because she was concerned about her son's grade in the class and wanted to know if he could get extra tutoring, etc. I'm baffled. Partially because it's college, partially because I'm not even the teacher. I respond with a stock message that basically says she has to contact the registrar for access to his grades. She responds again and is basically like, okay, I did. Now what? I finally just forward her over to the professor of the class, who very politely basically told her to F off. Helicopter parent much? I have had a student in my class for almost 3 years. It's an elective, and she's one of my returning veterans. Of the time in my class I have spoken to her father 4 times. The only time he was sober was our first time meeting. 2 times were at school events, a performance and parent-teacher conferences. He was asked to leave campus both times, which he did so peacefully, or until he would get home and take it out on his daughter. Our last interaction was when he came to pick her up after practice, drunk as could be. There was no way I could let my student get into the car with a very drunk man. I nearly expected him to blow up or get aggressive when I said her mother or someone else will have to give her a ride home. He basically gave me a whatever and drove off. When I spoke to the student the following Monday, it turned out her father went home and threw her and her mother out of the house. It was something that really messed with her. I recently spoke with her to see what I can do to help emotionally, financially, grade/tutoring, etc. Anything to keep her head above water. The only thing she asked for was to feel like my dad loves me. Broke my heart. I'm not one who normally cries, but I took my lunch break in my car after that. Parent of a kid who needed behavioral support for ADHD admitted to backing into a pole with her car while playing Pokemon Go to catch the kid a Pokemon. Told me she uses tanning oil rather than sunscreen for kid. No medication ever. I get it, in some cases it's pushed for no reason, but this kid was struggling hard and could have an opportunity to learn to read and interact appropriately with peers. Anti-vax. Let's see. There was the mom who had time to get breast implants, but couldn't be bothered to read to her young son, who had a learning disability. There's the dad who wore a shirt that said, "If you can read this," the lady fell off to a school meeting. He later was tripping and attempted to stab his son. The son escaped thankfully. The mom who dropped her 2 boys on grandma's porch years ago, leaving a note saying she couldn't do it anymore. I've had a couple parents kick their children out and leave them homeless. The list goes on and on. My stories aren't as serious as many others in the thread, but I'll share anyway. A mum was an hour and a half late in picking up her daughter from a rehearsal. Me and another teacher stood outside in the cold with this girl, couldn't stay in the building as it had to be locked up until 9:30 p.m. We called the mum many times and she always said she had been sick at home, but was on her way now. She finally turned up, dressed up like she had been at a party and appeared drunk. So she left her daughter out in the cold so she could continue partying. The worst thing was that the girl didn't react to this situation at all. It seemed like this was just normal for her. On year 12 camp, the students received letters from their parents, meant to be all warm fuzzy stuff about how proud their parents were of them, etc. Most of the parents had gone to a lot of effort, multiple letters from multiple family members, fancy paper, decorated envelopes, pages and pages of loving words written. A boy in the group I was in charge of was surprised when he actually received a letter. It was in a torn, reused envelope, and written on a scrap of paper were the words, "Love you son, Dad." Okay, sweet, but totally inadequate. The boy laughed it off and mentioned how busy his dad was all the time. And his dad was busy, some hotshot doctor with a lot of patients. But I have never wanted to confront a parent more in my life. I don't care about how busy his dad's work is. It isn't more important than his own son, and he could have found 5 minutes to just write him a goddamn letter. Also, there was no letter at all from the mum. I love my students, and it breaks my heart when they don't get the love and care they deserve from their parents. I got a few. Mom shows up spun out of her mind. Boyfriend's practically nodding in the parent conference. I guess opposites attract. Mom hits every emotion in 15 minutes. Kid was doing well in my class. Mom got livid when she heard the kid got a C+ on a test. Had I known, I would have lied. Mom just wanted to meet teachers. Thankfully the kid was smart and had a good head on its shoulders. The next day kid asks me to please not call mom with any concerns, they will just fix it. I told the kid I 100% agree. Kid got kicked out of mom's house so she could have a house where new stepdad and son couldn't argue. Kid got a pizza job to pay for an apartment as a junior in high school. How he got approved I don't know. Kid stole mom's car to move itself and siblings into grandparents' house in the middle of the night while parents discussed divorce. I worked in a tough school for a while. These are just a few. That's it for today. Do all the YouTube stuff and I'll see you all tomorrow.